Hi there, welcome to Transformer Trailer Sales. Today I'm going to walk you through your 2017 Coachmen Chaparral 392Mlb. We are just going to start off at the back of the unit. What you're going to find at the back here is going to be that observation ladder, so you can get up and check all your seals periodically up at the top. You are pre-mounted for an observation camera if you'd like to get set up with that. Of course, you can just contact the parts department. We're more than happy to help you out. And then coming around to the driver's side of the unit, just going to pull on that bumper cap. Typically, it's going to work. Here, you're going to want to store your sewer hose after your first use. We do have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which is why there's not one in there yet. Coming a little bit left of this back bumper, you do get the access to your rear stabilizer jacks. The way you're going to stabilize the front ones is by using your landing gear. The back ones though do, however, work off this switch. Once you do lift this up, it's important that you level the unit first. Once the unit is already leveled, then you can set down these jacks. These jacks aren't meant to level the unit, they're just really meant to stabilize them. If you try and use them to level them, there is the risk that you run of damaging them. Push that extend button, the feet run their way down to the ground. Sometimes the feet may go up or down at different paces. It's an open gear system, so it puts the one down with the least resistance first. And then, as you're seeing right now, the other one's just going to come and follow it after. So as long as you're not hearing any sort of weird noises, just keep holding that button. And then once that other foot does contact the ground and you hear the motor wind up, you're going to want to let off the button. So you heard that motor wind up like so. So you know those jacks are at their extension now. You need to be nice and stable back here. And then to retract them, just as simple as holding the retract button, the jacks will start making their way up. And once they do contact the bottom of the trailer, again, you're gonna hear the motor wind up and you can just let off the button. And just like going up, sometimes they may go up at different paces. Don't panic, just let them do their thing. And there you go. You're all down back there. Now coming a little bit ahead, you get your range hood vent. Whenever you get to your campsite, you're gonna wanna release those two tabs up top there, allowing you to evacuate fumes as you do make them. I am about 6 feet tall and I don't even get close to reaching it, so step ladder is probably gonna be pretty handy. Might come in handy with some other things around the unit as well. And then you get your 50 amp standard twist lock connection here. It's gonna be your main power source to the unit. You just take a note of this silver strip here. It lines up with this silver strip on this side. Once you do insert that firmly into place, you can 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. Now if you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 50 amp plug end. Now the reason this unit is equipped with 50 amp service is it does have 2 air conditioners. So if you're not hooked up to this connection here and you're using your dog bone adapter like we provided, just keep in mind whenever you're using 30 amps power only, you're only able to run 1 air conditioner at a time. It's not good for 2. It's probably a good chance you're gonna be tripping that breaker. We don't want that. So again, whenever you're on a 50 amp service, you can run both at the same time, but if you only are on a 30, 1 at a time is all you will be able to run. Coming up further ahead, you get your sewer outlet, take that cap, twist it off. Your sewer hose is gonna have the same ears, it connects right onto there like so, and then you have a couple different valves. There's gonna be a few inside that front, there's gonna be 2 in that front compartment. This back one, however, is your liquid waste. It's gonna be for that galley. Whenever you're draining it, just keep it in mind. You're gonna wanna empty that one of those. The liquid waste one you are gonna wanna do last. It's gonna be one of your cleaner waters. I'll show you about your black once we can get in that compartment. Fresh tank drain, it's just gonna be right here. So if you want to drain all the fresh tank, all the water out of the fresh tank, you just take that cap, twist it off. And if there's any water in the tank, it would have come gushing out, and you just allow it to do its thing and it'll drain all the water out of the tank. And then just putting that cap back into place like so, for when you do want to fill it. Furnace exhaust, whenever your furnace is running, this will be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. And then you get your hot water service port, flipping this guy down. Whenever you first get to your campsite, you're gonna want to give this pressure relief valve a pull. There should be a shot of water coming out of it, letting you know that the tank's full. I currently have the unit winterized, ready for customer pickup as it's the end of the season. So that's why there's no shot of water coming out of there. So that's letting you know that it wouldn't be a safe time to fire up that water tank, because you do run the risk of burning it out. Especially if you went to go fire it up on electricity. That probe only has to be out of water for a few seconds with it on for it to burn itself out. Again, we don't want that, so just always make sure that you do have water inside the tank before you try to fire it up on either gas or electric. And then inside this compartment is really going to be your main water zone, and then right at that front of the thing here, you get the battery disconnect with it in the on position like it is now. The batteries are connected to the unit. If you were to turn it to the off position, the batteries would become disconnected from the unit. You got a couple different tools here for your stabilizer jacks, and of course for your spare tire to come down, and I'll show you that once we get to the other side. Get your standard starter kit inside here. It's going to include a few different things: a 15-foot water hose, a 10-foot sewer hose, and some other miscellaneous goodies, including a 15-amp park adapter. So if you want to go down to 30 amps of power to your standard outlet, which is 15 amps, meaning a standard household outlet, you can do that, but just keep it in mind whenever you're doing that, you're not going to be able to run air conditioner at all or anything. It's realistically just to run your fridge and your lights and charge up your battery. Inside this water section here, you get a little outside shower, which is pretty nice, hot and cold water. If you wanted to install a water filter, this would be the location you're going to be doing so. You get a black tank flush. It's always going to be very important to use that after every couple of uses to keep that tank as clean as possible. It also helps with false monitor panel reading and any sort of odors. City water hookup, so if you're out of sight with service, of course, everything is going to go through your city water hookup when you hook up your hose, whether that be filling the tank or running off city water. It's going to be how you position these valves to be dependent on what it does. So you get a little legislative here, and you just run off that, making sure that your winterizing cap is on there tightly, because otherwise it'll cause that air pump to start sucking in some water. So again, with it like this now, you're in city water hookup / winterizing mode. So if you wanted to winterize, these would be the valves you would have to turn, as well as your hot water bypass valve. And then to turn that back into service, you would just turn it to the left, which would turn it to water on. Let's say you want to do tank fill, you'd have to turn this one to the left. It would allow it to fill the tank, and then once you wanted to use the system, you would have to turn this back to straight and turn that to the left. So system uses for the water pump, city water, is if you're out of sight with service. 110 outlets, of course, inside here. You do get a little light here in case you were doing something at night. Gives you a little bit of, as well as one on this side. They are just on their own center push buttons. And that's about it inside there. On this side here, you do get a little, you get a 30-pound propane tank. You got one on each side. This is going to be the main tank here. On the front of your regulator here, you're going to notice a little pointing arrow. With it pointed this way, you're drawing off this tank, so you can turn it open like any standard barbecue. The flow of propane is now open to the trailer. You're going to want to go counterclockwise and nice and slowly to do that. And then let's say this tank were to go empty. You just have to close it off, flip this over to the other side, and then you can start drawing off that tank while you were getting this one filled up. Or if you just didn't have a chance, just keep drawing off that one. Coming around the front here, when it comes for docking, you got your landing leg control, so whether you're extending or retracting that. But whenever doing so, this is the way you're going to be stabilizing the unit. So once you get the unit nice and level, you just tighten up these bars, and that keeps it extra stable up front. But before you ever go to hitch up or move the landing gear in any way, shape, or form, it's always very important you ensure that all these levers are loose. Failure to do any of that would cause one of these to bend if it were to be left tight. Now inside this compartment here is where you house your battery. It's right here. I left the cover off for you so you can see it nice and well, and otherwise, other than that, you do have storage space. Just keep it in mind, not gonna be wanting to pile anything on top of that battery, and you're gonna wanna be making sure you keep clear of all these bars and wires. Other than that, it is free storage space. On this side, that's going to be the other side for your compartment. You get 2 exterior speakers. In here, let's give you the other side of that storage compartment. Pretty standard. Slam latches so that they go nice and closed. Inside here, this is your little exterior kitchen. You got 2 taps, hot and cold. Mini fridge. This does only work if you're hooked up to shore power though, so keep that in mind. Main entryway door, and the rest of the unit is pretty much self-explanatory. Minus the fact of coming underneath here, you get this little bar here. You see it goes to that spare tire. There is going to be a safety chain hooked up to that spare tire, so you'd have to crawl under there, remove the safety chain, hook up to your tool that I showed you inside your front compartment, and then it would allow you to drop this tire down to the ground. And then if you wanted to, you could obviously pick the one you took off, back up. Hopefully you don't have to do that, but if you did, that's how you do it. Now to get inside, you just take that assist handle, push it up, fold it at 90 degrees. That's going to lock it into place. will allow you to open up your stairs. Just like so, that'll allow you to open up your door. Once the door is opened up, you can take a step on inside. Now, coming to your left right away, you're gonna get some entryway lights on this back wall right underneath your thermostat. Turns on all these hallway lights so you can see what you're doing. Then the rest of these lights all pretty much are gonna be on this wall panel. And then of course you're gonna have tons of accent lighting throughout just on its own center push buttons, and you kind of find that as you use the unit. Next, you get all your slide out controls. Now, of course, it's gonna be pretty difficult to do this with this unit, obviously, just because the slide outs completely block you from getting to the rest of the unit. But it's always a good measure before you ever run either of your slide outs, either 3 of your slide outs, just do a quick visual check. Make sure you look around, see nothing shifted during travel, which is gonna get caught in between the slide out and the wall, causing damage. And whenever you are running them, just being very visual, making sure they go out nice and even, they're not making any noises. And then of course on the outside, making sure you have enough adequate space to put all the slide outs out without running them into anything. Once you do all that, it is just as simple as hitting that button out. Slide out's gonna start making its way out. And once the slide out does hit its full extensions, you're gonna hear the motors wind up and click. And that is when you can let off that button. You're gonna have a household switch here that is just to turn the ceiling fan on inside the main living space there. So you heard the clicking, so that's when you know you're at your full extension. Next, you can do your front bedroom slide. Again, it's a good idea to do a quick visual check, but you're just pushing and holding that button until you hear the clicking. Almost the last. You got 4 slides actually, I was wrong. You're gonna do your kitchen slide. Again, you heard the clicking, so you can let off. And then last, you get your kids' bedroom or chill room, whatever you were doing with that space inside there to get that out. With the slide outs in, you can't open up this door, so just keep that in mind. Whatever you do put in there, you won't get access to unless you can put the slide out. And you can let off the button. Next, you get all your outside lights plus some main living space lights. Then you get a porch and a scare light. And then you do have your water heater option. Now, I will go over a few notes about propane. Whenever you turn the system off at the front of the trailer, it allows air into the system. Once air makes its way in, it does have to be purged out. Now, the quickest, easiest way to do that is by going to your stove. And that's because whenever you first get to your campsite, if you fire up your stove first thing, it's the quickest, easiest way to purge the lines, because you get to decide how long the gas runs for and how many sequences you try to light it for. If you want to go to fire up your fridge, water heater, furnace, or anything like that before purging, those will only try lighting themselves a couple times. And if they don't sense a flame because there's no gas getting to it yet, it could throw a fault code. If you don't know what the fault code means, again, it could throw a little wrench in your weekend. We do want to try to avoid that. So it's always a good idea to purge your system. And if you go to try to fire up something and it fails the first time, always try a second time. Again, it just could be a purging issue. So with all that being said, if you go to fire up your water heater on gas, at that point you hit the switch, the water heater is going to try lighting itself 3 times. And if on the 3rd try it doesn't light, that DSI fault light's going to come on. At that point, you do just have to turn the switch on, give it about 5 minutes, allow it time to reset itself, and then try relighting it again. And then if you want to fire it up on electric, you just have to hit that button. Just, of course, making sure you do have water in there before doing that. Water pump switch, which draws out of your fresh tank, obviously. On the wall here, you get your thermostat. So when you're in zone 1, this is going to be your main zone. So this is going to control your rear air conditioner as well as your furnace. If you click zone 2, that's going to take you to your front air conditioner and only your front air conditioner. You can't fire up your furnace on zone 2. So going back into zone 1, once you are in zone 1, you can hit system. Now that's going to first take you to cool. Of course, whenever you're in cool, pushing the up or down button at any time changes your set temperature. And then once you're in that, if you hit that Sorry, I hit the button too many times. I'm gonna go back to cool, and you're in high. And if you hit mode, that changes your fan speed. So I always recommend running it in the auto, and that's gonna go for everything. Always recommend leaving it in auto, because then it creates an on-demand system. So that air conditioner will only run if the room is currently 67 and we have it set to 66. It's not gonna run very long before it senses it's at 66 and shuts off the air conditioner. If you had that fan running on either high or low, the fan is gonna run continuously full time until you actually manually turn it off. That's gonna be also important for when you go to fire up your furnace, because now that we're in cool, if you hit the system button and go over to furnace, if you hadn't put the air conditioner on the auto setting, the air conditioner is still gonna run even though your furnace fires up. Once your furnace fires up, it does use gas again, of course. So having the system purged again is gonna be very important, and it only has one fan speed. It moves all its air through the floor portals you have throughout the unit. The air conditioner has multiple fan speeds, but it moves its air either through these louvers here, which in case this is called a quick dump. So if you first got to your campsite, it's extra warm inside of here. It's always a good idea to cool off the main living space. Once this space is cool, then close these louvers, in which case it'll push its air through the ceiling ducting you have throughout the unit. And the reason I'm telling you to cool off this space first is because the air conditioner sucks all its air in through here. So if this space is already cool, it makes it that much easier to push its air throughout the rest of the unit, because the air will already be cool. After that, if you hit that system button again, you're just gonna go over to off and you're pretty much done. Nice and simple, that's how we like it. So we'll start off at the front of the unit today. We're gonna go in through this door here. Once the door is open, the light switch is on your left, and this is just pretty much a kid's chill spot, or you could use it as a TV room, office, whatever happens to be fit your lifestyle. This is what you could do with this room here. This bed does fold out into an extra, this couch folds out into an extra bed in case you needed it. Inside this is just some covered space. Again, you're gonna have tons of storage space throughout this unit, just whenever you are using it, of course, being mindful of drains, water lines, and things like that. Up above my head here, you get your King satellite control button. So you push in the button on the side and you can move that antenna for whichever direction that has the best signal. But just keep it in mind, it's always a good idea to keep this arrow pointed towards the front of the trailer. It makes it the most aerodynamic, the least chance of it ripping off in the wind. Light switch on the right turns on all these lights inside your bunk space. Bunk space for any extra kids or your own kids, or what we do up there. Another light switch to turn on a little blue accent lighting inside of here, which I thought was pretty cool. And this is the ladder. In case the kid's not big enough to hop in, you can just fold that ladder down, just quick and simple like that. Hop in and out nice and easy with that ladder. All the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. In the bathroom, you get a beautiful bathroom, full-size shower, pretty standard bathroom. The only exception, you get your main GFI plug here on the wall because this is a movable vehicle. You're always going to be around water. GFI is there to protect you against that. If it senses moisture, it trips. So if you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would always be the first place I would look. Just double check this isn't tripped. Sometimes it can trip for the weirdest reasons. So you get that reset button in the middle, test on the left. And then last, for up top, you get your main bedroom space. Again, light switch is going to be on the left. This is going to be your main kind of space inside of here. In addition, up top here, you get these louvers. Again, louvers for the air conditioner. If you're only on a 30 amp service, though, just keep it in mind that you are only going to be able to run one air conditioner at a time. You got your bedroom space, pretty standard. Countertop, fire exit, works pretty standard. Take this tab, pull it, screen's going to pop right out of place. At that point, take this handle, spin it around, push it out. Now try and hop out of the unit. Now, of course, going feet first is going to be very, very important, especially with this being a fifth wheel. You're pretty high up here, so keep it in mind, it is a pretty big leap down, so be safe whenever you are trying to exit the unit. Through that, of course, hopefully you never do have to. TV mount. You've already got a TV mounted. Just probably keep in mind how much space you have between the wall, the mount, and the window, because that'll affect that. Up top, plugins. And now inside here, you get cabinet space. Again, you get some cool accent lighting, and then you do have a light on its own center push button inside of there. in here, slide this open. Washer works just like home. There's probably not much I'm going to show you there. It's a neat little feature so you can do your laundry on the go. Underneath, other than that, again, it's just going to be more pantry space all throughout here. There's going to be some storage space underneath the bed. Just got to grab the foot of it, pull it up. Again, you could put blankets or whatever else inside of there. Now, if you go back down through the main living space, inside here, in this slide out, again, you're going to have some lights on their own center push buttons. Then you're also going to be finding lights, switches all around, which will turn on more lighting throughout. You got 2 recliner chairs, nice little spot to eat breakfast. Again, all the blinds work the same way. This back couch does fold out into a bed. You just have to remove your cushions from the backer, pick up the foot of it. It's going to fold right out, acts like any sort of folding sofa bed. Again, tons of accent lighting all throughout, and then you come to your entertainment center, which has more lighting inside of it. I know, you get tons of lighting inside of here, which is nice. It keeps it nice and bright. Get your Fury on TV on the wall. You come down below here. You got a coax. I know it's going to be hard to see in the video, but there is a little black button here. That black button does turn that green light on. Now that turns your antenna on that I showed you. Turns it on the roof. Now that's also going to improve radio frequency and cell phone frequency. So whenever you're using the unit, I do recommend leaving this on. But if you're leaving the unit for a while, trying to remember to turn it off is pretty important because it will draw battery power. Then to my right, you get your different, you get your sound system, which is again pretty much just like home. You got all the different options: AM, FM, Bluetooth, aux, USB, stuff like that. But the main thing I want to tell you about is just your different zones. So A is going to be inside of here, your main living space. B will be the back set of speakers, more towards the bunk and the bedrooms. And then C will be your exterior speakers, in case you wanted to turn those on. Fireplace right down below, power button on the left. The other button turns your different light settings. Then you get your different fan settings. So you got low, high, and then of course you can change your different set temperatures so it kicks in and out. And then you have a timer that's anywhere from 1 hour to 9 hours, 6 hours, sorry. Power button on the left to turn it off. Into our kitchen space, you got your convection oven up top. I like to think this is a little wine rack, but you can put whatever you would like in there. Storage all throughout. Coming to your stove. Again, I told you about it earlier. This is how you're going to purge the system. Pretty simple. You just take that knob, turn it over to the high option, hit the sparker. Of course, it did fire right on up today. That's only because I had the system running earlier. Sometimes it can take a few minutes, so just be careful whenever you're doing so. And then, of course, because it's a gas fireplace or gas stove, you're always going to be wanting to be safe whenever you're trying to use it. So whenever you push this knob in and turn it over to the light, make sure you're hitting that sparker every 2 seconds, because failure to do so, if you did have a buildup of gas starting to happen and then a random source of ignition, there could be a small combustion causing you to lose some eyebrows and eyelashes if your face was nearby. That's going to be something we're definitely going to want to avoid. So again, just be safe using that sparker every few seconds, so when the gas does start coming out, it doesn't build up and cause a combustion. It lights right away and goes peachy just like so. Getting the stove to light is pretty much the same thing, except you're going to have to light the pilot first. So push it over to the pilot, push and hold the knob in. Hold the, sorry, the sparker doesn't work for this one. You have to have a lighter handy, which I don't today. But you would just take your lighter, hold it over the gas surface on the right of the burner. Once the pilot would be able to light and stay lit without you holding in on the button, you can turn it up to your desired temperature and it would just fire right on up. Next, you're coming to your fridge. It's a Dometic fridge. It will fire on either gas or propane. The controls for all of it are up top. Push the power button to turn it on. We usually leave them in auto, so that's where it's going to stay. So whenever it's in auto, it'll first search for shore power. Once shore power is taken away, it'll automatically switch over to gas. Let's say you're out boondocking or you're in off-season camping, you want it to run solely on gas, you just have to hit that button, and you're going to see the little dot move over to LP. So that means you're just going to be running solely on LP. But having the system purged, again, is going to be pretty important. You want the back to fire on gas, just hit the button again, it'll switch over to that. Power button to turn it off. Little extra note for this, whenever you do have your fridge on, Make sure if you're leaving the unit for a while after that and you're turning the fridge off, make sure you do allow it adequate time to open up these doors and allow it to kind of cool down, because as it does cool down, it's going to build condensation. It's always a good idea to be having some towels inside of here, because there is a lot that builds up. And if you don't catch it right away, it causes the growth of mold or mildew, so we don't want that. So just make sure you're mindful of that. Pantry space, tons of pantry space throughout. Just keep in mind this is a travel strap, it's there for a reason. Whenever you're traveling, you want to make sure it's latched up, that way it can't open on its own, causing any sort of damage. And then right down below, you get your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever a breaker trips, it'll sit in the middle, so you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. All your corresponding fuses will be on your right. Now, one thing I did forget to mention, you got your LP detector right there near the ground. If that guy does start going off, don't panic. Just turn off your main supply of propane at the front of the unit, open up some windows and vents, and get some fresh oxygen inside of here. Last but not least, the one thing I did forget to go over was just your awning control. Push and hold the extend button, your awning is going to start making its way out. It's going to slowly roll its way out, and you're going to know it's fully extended when you see the back of the metal tube and the little flap come down. Now sometimes that flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it a couple feet and then put it back out again to get it to come down. But keeping in mind, whenever you're rolling this awning out, it's always going to be a good idea to keep an eye on the wind speeds. Once the wind speeds start picking up, so there you go, you get the back of the metal tube and a little flap hanging down, so you're fully extended. But back to what I was saying, if it were to start getting really windy, you're going to want to make sure you bring the awning in. It acts exactly as a wind sail, so once winds start picking up, it doesn't take much to either rip it off or rip your fabric, bend your arms. It gets pretty costly pretty quick. And then if it were to start raining, you just take any arm, front or rear, pull down at the center. It's going to change the pitch of the awning, allowing water to now run off. Now, if you like that angle better because it allows for more shade underneath, you can do the same thing with the front arm. Just make sure that before you bring your awning in, you do push these arms back to straight. That way, when you bring it in, it doesn't run the risk of bending anything. Now, that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.